Hello, and once again, we are live with the Modern Mystery School UK EU podcast and YouTube channel. And yes, it's that time where we invite and speak to Aleks about what is happening in the world of astrology. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about you, Ipsisma Kate?
Well, yes, I'm very good. And I'm very excited because not only, as we were just chatting before, Uranus is moving into Gemini, it's a full moon. Yep. And we're talking about Mercury retrograde. I mean, we've got it all going on. Tell us more. How is this influencing our life?
So I can't tell you how many people have been messaging me right now because they're in their feels right now. They're in their feelings. And so the Capricorn full moon has definitely been bringing up where people's priorities and where their lives are at. And it's been really showing or revealing that cognitive dissonance. And it's really just kind of time to simplify things and to remember what's important so that you can go after that. Right.
I love that. As guides, I mean, for some of us that are on the path, that's just such a wonderful piece of advice is, focus on that one thing, focus on, helping the world to be a better place. I love it.
Yeah. And, and of course, next week we have Mercury moving into retrograde motion. And that one is actually all about the stories that you tell yourself and how the stories that you repeat and the archetypes that are within those stories frame your mindset and how you approach your reality. And so, of course, we have positive archetypes. But then we have negative archetypes. And, there was one that I was reminded of because I know a lot of people have been complaining about work recently and really been feeling drained and like they're chasing after an unfulfillable task without reward. And so that's very much like poor Sisyphus, who was doomed by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill only to have it roll back down on the other side before he had to, continue rolling it back and forth and doomed to do that for eternity. And so it's kind of interesting because I've been noticing that archetype has really been kind of permeating the consciousness right now. And so it's time to start telling ourselves different stories and incorporating positive archetypes so that we can grow into that. You don't want to grow into Sisyphus. You don't want to be doomed to roll a boulder up and down a hill, for eternity without reward.
Yeah, I was having this conversation just last night, actually, with somebody, and they were saying about, all kind of the labels that they've been given and this and that, and this is why this, that, and I said, well, there is so much that you actually do that is positive. Why don't we just focus on that? Let's focus on all the positive things that you do and can do because of X, Y, Z,
Yeah. Well, the stories and the archetypes that are in the archetypes inherent in the story are kind of like a bow and arrow, and you're constantly shooting that. And so whatever stories you're telling yourself, that's where you're aiming. And so you're only going to get more of that. And so actually, I'm going to put a note out here because during Mercury retrograde, I have a little project that I want to do. And I'm hoping that everyone's going to participate with me and send me your favorite mythological story. Because for every day of Mercury retrograde, I want to put out a positive mythological archetype out there. So everyone, please feel free to send me your favorite mythological stories and why they're your favorite, and then that way I can feature some really good stuff to inspire everyone during Mercury retrograde.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Now we also have Uranus and Gemini coming up, and this is a big shift. So just a little background, because Uranus was discovered in 1781, and it was actually discovered in the sign of Gemini. And so we're actually celebrating a bit of an anniversary in some ways, since Uranus is returning to the sign where we discovered him, right? Now, I posted a joke about this a couple days ago, but when Uranus was discovered, it was discovered by an astronomer named Herschel. And he actually wanted to call Uranus Georgium Sidum as a tribute to his patron, King George. But most of the astronomical community was not very pleased with honoring the British king, most notably the French, actually. And so they shot that name down, and they would only refer to it as Herschel, after William Herschel, the discoverer of Uranus. And so for many years, I believe it was about 70 years, Uranus was known as Herschel. And I don't know, I kind of feel like that's a bit of a disappointing name. So I'm thankful that another astronomer actually proposed naming it Uranus after the rest of the Roman gods.
Yes.
I made a joke. I was like, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Herschel.
It doesn't have quite the same ring, does it?
No, definitely not. Sounds kind of disappointing. So when we discovered Uranus, like I said, it was in Gemini, and Uranus in Gemini has often had significant shifts for the world, especially in the areas of technology, literacy, and particularly for the US government. So when Uranus was when the US was formed and the Declaration of Independence was signed, Uranus was in Gemini. And so actually at the beginning of 2027, the United States will be going through its Uranus return. And there are many historical events that are actually tied to the Uranus return for the US. And so some of those include, of course, the Declaration of Independence, but then you also have the Civil War and the events of World War II as well. And many of these, at least the Civil War and World War II, were times of upheaval, right? But on the other side of it, the US always grew to be stronger and to uphold its ideals. And so as Uranus is moving into Gemini, there is going to be upheaval, and it's okay on the other side of things. And so I know a lot of people are worried about there, especially about the US, with its president, who also happens to be a Gemini.
You're in our club of Geminis.
Yay! But on the other side of it, there has always been advancement and greater unity and I guess I could say grounding of ideals to a higher state. And so prior to the Declaration of Independence being signed, Uranus was already in the work of forming the US. So Uranus in Gemini was actually at the heart of the Protestant Reformation. And, of course, that was a source of conflict, especially in the UK and the British Isles. But one of the things that it brought about was actually a huge increase in literacy. And so as people were encouraged to start reading the Bible themselves, the literacy rate started climbing much, much higher. And so I find it interesting because one of the worries of everyone right now is, about AI and how AI is kind of taking away the brain work, I guess I could say, and how everyone is worried about AI making people less intelligent, because they can just ask AI to complete tasks for them. But if we really work with the energy of Uranus and Gemini, it will allow us to incorporate technology in humanistic ways that serve, so that we're not losing intelligence, because Uranus and Gemini has never brought a decrease in intelligence. It's actually always brought higher intelligence, higher application, that results in better living conditions for day-to-day life, right? And so it's actually a really beautiful thing for the world, even though it is a bit tumultuous. It is a little bit tumultuous, but on the other side of this, we will have greater unity, greater coherence, and higher intelligence that's actually meant to elevate the daily life of everyone.
That's tremendous. And what's the time span of that? Do we know? Do we have some idea?
Yeah. So basically, Uranus takes about 7 years in each sign, but he is moving retrograde in and out. And so basically, we have from now until about 2033.
So we have some time.
We have some time. And so there's going to be a lot of technological development. But again, the focus is going to be on that technological development serving us and enhancing our lives, especially the day-to-day.
Well, that's very exciting.
And then of course on a personal note, right? Because that's more of the global outlook, but there's always the personal outlook of it. And so for all of us, we have the chance to really embody the archetype of the gods of intelligence within ourselves. And I mean, who doesn't want to be more intelligent?
Yeah, all of us. All of us.
Right? And this is about the intelligence of the higher mind. So Uranus is actually the mind of God in esoteric astrology. So it's said that beyond Saturn is only godliness. So Uranus is the mind of God, Neptune is the heart of God, and Pluto is the will of God. And Gemini is the sign that governs over the link between the lower mind, this stuff between our ears, and the higher mind of God. And so Gemini, it literally is that, you could say, tube of light that connects us up to the mind of God. And so while Uranus is in Gemini, it's kind of like the mind of God is literally like aligning right over the crown chakra, so that you can receive those creative ideas, so that you can not only download that higher intelligence, but also start applying it. Because Gemini is one of the signs of humanity itself, and it governs over the service that needs to be accessible day to day. And so we all have this amazing opportunity to receive that higher wisdom, that higher knowledge, and the creativity to start implementing that into the physical world, and take those higher energies and actually make them something tangible in our physical life.
Sounds wonderful.
Absolutely. This really is, over the next 7-8 years, it's your time to meditate. It's your time to sit down with pen and paper and put ideas, into the physical earth to start grounding them. Feel free to use things like technology that are going to help you bring that higher intelligence into the world.
Wow, I think that's wonderful news. I mean, I'm very excited. Even if we have got some retrogrades happening, I think with the mind of God, that's it, we're away.
Right. And for a lot of people, this is going to help bring them a little bit closer to their purpose. It's funny. I heard this on a podcast, but there was a story. Actually, it was about the UK. There was a study, and it said that 80% of people felt that they lacked a purpose. And without purpose, how is there joy? How is there growth? None of those things are possible. And so Uranus in Gemini really gives people the ability to connect to that higher mind of God and perhaps see themselves in a new light.
Amazing. So things like, if people haven't received the life activation, of course, this would be tremendous time to receive the life activation or have initiation.
Absolutely. And, one of the beautiful things about initiation is that it makes it so much easier to connect, hold, and sustain that connection to the higher mind of God, to those higher realms of wisdom and perspective. And to also recognize when your negative ego is kind of, pulling you down and stopping you from embracing and living that purpose as well.
Wonderful. I mean, I love all of that. All of that. I mean, our time is whizzing by. I mean, we could just chat for so long about this, but I mean, it's all good news. I mean, it's all just a perfect, amazing time to be alive.
It's wonderful. And as the planet of archetypes, our purpose is very much aligned with the archetypes that we embody. And so Uranus and Gemini is making those archetypes and that purpose accessible.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about your own personal chart, or indeed how the path can help you and support you, then get in touch with Al. She is amazing, and she'll be able to help and support you. Map that out, pardon the pun, but map it out according to the stars and according to the planets. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, everyone. And we will be tuning in again soon. Take care for now.